So I originally wasn't going to do this review for Uncharted The Lost Legacy until a whole bunch of you hit me up asking me to know what I thought about it, what my impressions were, and where I would rank Lost Legacy among the other Uncharted games. So here we go, guys. I'm going to tell you everything I really enjoyed about this game and some of the things I just didn't care for. What's going on, guys? Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another video. An Uncharted Lost Legacy really has an interesting history behind it. It originally started as DLC for Uncharted 4 before Naughty Dog made the smart decision to make it its own full game. That's right, it's about 7 hours long, give or take. There are 9 chapters, and it honestly feels like a fully fledged Uncharted experience. So +1 to Naughty Dog for making that decision, because quite honestly, it would be much better this way than DLC, and I think everybody would agree with that. Now, the one kind of issue I had with the game, or at least one of my concerns and apprehensions, was the main character. You no longer play as Nathan Drake, but rather Chloe Frazer. And the reason I was a little bit concerned about that is because Nathan Drake is Uncharted to me, and probably millions of other people out there. His journey, his story, his arc from Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 4 was great to see unfold. You know, yeah, he's funny, he's got all the quips, which are great, but it was really his relationships, the conversations he had with the people he loved, like Sully, like Sam, but especially with Elena, was one of the things that really elevated Uncharted over some other games out there. So I was kind of curious to see if Naughty Dog could do the same for Chloe Frazer, someone we don't know that much about, was just kind of a side character in Uncharted 2 and had a bit spot in Uncharted 3. Never was really fond of her very much, always preferred Elena, but here we go. We have a new protagonist for essentially future Uncharted games. And she's not alone in this game. She is joined by Nadine Ross. If you may remember, she was the villain, or at least one of the villains from Uncharted 4. She's now working with Nadine to find the Tusk of Ganesh. And the first thing I'm going to say about this game, I've been raving about it to my friends, is how gorgeous this game is. Honestly, this might be the best looking game I have ever played, even more so than God of War or even Uncharted 4. The environment work, the skylines, the vistas that Naughty Dog can create are just unparalleled in gaming. There are moments when you kind of are close to the camera, you move into an area, the camera kind of pulls back, and you see this beautiful structure or this vista, and it really honestly takes your breath away by how good it looks. And even the characters themselves will comment on it. They'll be like, oh, so beautiful, amazing. Chloe will even take pictures. And honestly, it is, I'm going to say it's the best looking game I ever have played. Some of those moments where you're just driving around in the truck or just swinging from a branch, I just sat there and just looked at how amazing Uncharted Lost Legacy looked on my PS4 Pro on my 4K television. God, Naughty Dog are just wizards when it comes to this kind of stuff. But as an Uncharted game, the gameplay is pretty familiar to anybody who's played it. You have a pistol or a sidearm and a regular gun. You can take out enemies any way you really seem, whether it's the frontal attack James Bond style, or you can kind of sneak around in the grass and take them out that way. Nothing really has changed so much from Uncharted 4. It uses that same formula, but honestly, the gunplay was never really Uncharted's strong suit. It was always the cinematic storytelling, the environments, the graphics, the characters, the conversations, and all those different things I feel Naughty Dog excel at, whereas the gunplay is just pretty standard. It just is there to kind of get you from one amazing set piece to another amazing set piece without really kind of getting in the way. So there's that to it. And the other kind of thing I didn't really enjoy, which I didn't enjoy in Uncharted 4, was the open world aspect this game kind of has in the middle. So when you start out looking for the Tusk of Ganesh, you'll end up in like chapter 4. You end up in the car and you kind of drive around to this one location after another location on the same map. Very open world, similar to, I think it's like Chapter 12 in Uncharted 4. Didn't like it in Uncharted 4. Don't really care for it in Uncharted Lost Legacy. And please, Naughty Dog, next time you do one of these games where driving is like a core thing in your title, please hire someone who can actually make driving enjoyable, because in my opinion, the driving in these Uncharted games are never that good. So please mark that down as something you need to do and someone you need to hire. But moving on from that, I really did feel that this game is about exploration. Even though it's an Indiana Jones-like story where you're, going after some fabled treasure, I did feel like in this game you were actually deciphering it and working with Nadine to figure out where to go next. So I appreciated that. Some of the Uncharted games, especially 3, weren't so much about kind of figuring it out rather than just stumbling into the mystery. So this one was pretty good in that respect of actually figuring out where to go next, going there, solving the puzzle, going somewhere else. Unfortunately, the enemies are always either right behind you or in front of you, which is kind of weird. How would the enemies know where to go, right? They wouldn't know where to go because they don't have the information that you have, but they always end up in front of you or behind you. But then again, is that really a nitpick? Because the game wouldn't really exist if you didn't have enemies on your tail. Now, one of the things I did appreciate alongside the exploration and figuring out for yourself was the lack of combat. The pacing in this game is really good, and it doesn't really rely heavily on the combat. They do more exploration, the climbing stuff, trying to build the character relationship between Chloe and Nadine, and they don't really bookend it too much with fighting and towards the end. So I actually really enjoyed that aspect of kind of driving around, looking at the scenery, figuring out where to go, solving a puzzle, escaping, and rinse and repeat. And even by the end, I was telling my friends, like, man, there's not a lot of combat in this game compared to the others. Well, until you get to the very end, and the end of the game, the last level, literally, not figuratively, literally becomes the best of Uncharted. That's right. You end up on a train, just like Uncharted 2. You have to get to the front of the train. Enemies will be on it, so you need to kind of adjust for the curvature of the train as it moves. Cars will come attack you from the end, so you kind of got to jump off the train onto cars and take those over, similar to Uncharted 3 in the convoy section. You can also drive the cars at certain points, similar to the addition of Uncharted 4, and use the grapple. So it honestly, truly felt like, hey, let's do a best of Uncharted section at the end of the game. I really enjoyed it because I thought it was pretty good, but there is that. Now, as the villain, a lot of the Uncharted games don't have memorable villains. Asaf really does kind of stand out. I liked his calm demeanor. I liked that he had a relationship with Nadine as I started to warm up to Nadine as the game progressed. But that's one of the things that Naughty Dog doesn't do very well, is good villains. I honestly don't remember any of the villains from Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. The only reason I remember Uncharted 4's villain is because I've played it recently. So hopefully that's something Naughty Dog can work on, because even though Asaf is a decent villain, I'm probably going to forget who he was a year from now. But I gotta say, by the end of the game, I really warmed up to Chloe and Nadine, and spoiler alert, Sam, who comes along for the journey, kind of added a different dynamic, opened it up a little bit because of his animosity and Nadine's animosity towards him, so there was some nice jokes and distrust there. But I really enjoyed the kind of growth that Chloe saw, that Nadine had, and I'm like ready for another Uncharted adventure, a trilogy or something where Chloe is the main character. Maybe if you give her a couple more games, some interesting villains to fight, and some cool treasures to discover, that she can be as good, if not better, than Nathan. Hopefully they do revisit that down the road, because I am quite a fan of Uncharted Lost Legacy. I thought it was a pretty damn good 7-hour experience, a lot of fun, It's basically no different than any Uncharted game, so if you don't like Uncharted, you're probably not going to like this. And as far as the rankings, my previous ranking for the titles were Uncharted 4 number 1, Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, and then Uncharted 1. After playing Lost Legacy, we're going to slide Lost Legacy in there after Uncharted 2. So my updated rankings for the Uncharted games are Uncharted 4, Uncharted 2, Uncharted Lost Legacy, Uncharted 3, and all the way at the bottom, at the very, very bottom, is Uncharted 1. I had a blast playing through Uncharted Lost Legacy. The vistas and the scenery are unparalleled. Nobody does it better than Naughty Dog. The combat is the same as it's always been. It gets the job done. It's not great in any aspect, but it works. The character relationships between Nadine and Chloe started off a little tense, but I really grew to enjoy the characters by the end. I really enjoyed the Indiana Jones aspect of discovering some, buried treasure, and I thought the story of Ganesh and Shiva and all that stuff was very interesting. I liked the climbing sections of seeing an object out in the distance and actually getting there and climbing up it and discovering what happened to this civilization, things like that. So I hope they do make an Uncharted Lost Legacy 2. I hope we see more of Chloe Frazer, but honestly, I'll play whatever Naughty Dog makes, as long as it's Naughty Dog that is making Uncharted. But anyways, guys, that is my review for Uncharted Lost Legacy. I'd give it an 8.5 and a must-play if you're an Uncharted fan or if you just want to see some great scenery and graphics. That's the review, guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit that like button. Consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Hit the notification bell so you're always notified when I drop new content. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you share this out on social media, and I'll see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.